Jamaica's Minister of Science and Technology and Energy stripped of one of his portfolios, and in sport, Karani James sets new record at a Guyana Invitational. I'm Ricardo Roberts, and this is Caribbean Intent for Tuesday, July 3. I'll be back with the details in just a moment.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Store drinking water in clean jugs, bottles, and cooking utensils.
Tell us a little bit about why this project, why the IDB, why young people?
So I've been working with the IDB for a few years, and it actually started up here in the US while I was a student at George Mason University. And I was working with ICS, the Institute of Caribbean Studies, and just kind of through partnering with different young people who were working with the IDB, they picked up on what I was doing and offered me essentially an accolade.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness has stripped embattled Minister of Science, Energy and Technology Dr. Andrew Wheatley of the energy portfolio in the wake of reports of corruption and mismanagement at the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam. The energy portfolio will be transferred to the office of the Prime Minister effective tomorrow. A statement issued late yesterday following a cabinet meeting said the decision was made after talks with Wheatley, who agreed with the Prime Minister that the transfer would be done in the interest of transparency. The latest development follows mounting public and political pressure as the country's only oil refinery is engulfed in controversy, including questionable spending and allegations of breach and government's procurement guidelines. Last week, leader of the main opposition People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, called for Wheatley to be fired. Wheatley is expected to answer some key questions on the issue in Parliament, which were asked by the opposition several weeks ago and which leader of the House, Carl Samuda, had undertaken would be answered today. The government of Antigua and Barbuda has responded to the unrest on the sister isle of Barbuda, which saw a 5-hour standoff between residents and the police over the weekend. Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Dean Jonas, who also has responsibility for Barbuda affairs, says the ministry is dissatisfied with the way the fisheries complex on Barbuda is being run, and the government has decided to take over its management. More in this report.
Minister Jonas says a number of issues are at play that prompted the decision to take control of the keys of the building. He says a few weeks ago he met with the Barbuda MP, the Honourable Trevor Walker, and a few council members. Minister Jonas says in that meeting he expressed his pleasure with how the fisheries complex was being managed by Doug Beezer. According to Minister Jonas, Beezer is Walker's brother.
Many times the Director of Fisheries, Ms. Cheryl Appleton, or the Chief Fisheries Officer, if you want to call it that, a proper name, goes over to Barbuda to do inspections and whatever she normally does with the other facilities, because we have quite a few fisheries facilities across the country. And he would completely ignore her. He would not respond to her emails, her phone calls, or anything like that. So I told Ms. Appleton, look, you're just going to have to get somebody else to manage that facility in Barbuda. It's not up to the council, it's up to the Ministry of Fisheries. The
minister also says it is necessary that the complex is properly managed so the Chief Fisheries Officer can do her job.
Barbados' Minister of Education, Santia Bradshaw, has hinted strongly at the possibility of a ban on corporal punishment at the island's schools. She said corporal punishment was proving to be an ineffective means of disciplining children. Bradshaw added that in any event, physical punishment did more harm than good, and she revealed plans to introduce a new policy on discipline. Speaking at the launch of an anti-violence campaign organized by the Ministry of and UNICEF, Bradshaw says the essence of discipline is finding effective alternatives to punishment, and the most effective one that comes to mind is providing children with the skill they need for living in harmony with one another. The Trinidad and Tobago government has put the brakes on pursuing legislation designed to increase the number of judges for now. Attorney General Faris Al-Rawari made the disclosure during Monday's Senate sit-in. The Supreme Court of Judicature and Children Bill 2018 seeks to amend 13 pieces of legislation to allow for the streamlining of the processes as it relates to the treatment of children and children matters. Now, Clause 3 of the bill seeks to increase the number of deputy judges from 49 to 64. Al-Rawari said the decision to put a pause on the legislation was taken after the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago requested time to have another look at the bill. The Attorney General said that while he accepted that stakeholders have their part to play in reforming legislation, he said his office has reached out to the association on the matter several times in the past but got no response.
Over 18 years, and I want to say that I find it quite astounding that one can approve on the one hand and not approve on the other hand. That one can give written confirmation of consent and structure, watch the system go into operation with hundreds of cases in gear, and then come to say that we want to have another look at it. This occasion, we have received a request asking for consultation, but it is imperative, before I indicate the government's position to facilitate that I mark on the record that the progress of our reform to law depends upon people acting with diligence.
Stay with us. Your Midday Sport is next.
This month on Caribbean Passport, we travel the region taking in Grenada Spice Mass, Barbados Crop Over, Antigua Summer Festival, and so much more, all coming up on this station.
Welcome back. Former world and Olympic champion Kirani James continued his comeback with a record-setting victory as he won the 400 meters on Saturday at the Alien Pompey Invitational. The Grenadian came home in a new track record of 44.99 seconds, comfortably dismissing a field lacking any true star quality at the Lenora Track and Field Center. Now, coming off the final turn, James was the clear leader and had no challengers over the last 100 meters. Nigerian Chidi Okizi ran second in 45.97, while Guyanese Winston George, a two-time Olympian, crossed the line third in 46.13 seconds. But there was disappointment for Commonwealth Games triple jump champion Troy Doris, who finished fourth in the event after measuring a disappointing 16.09 meters. And American Donald Scott produced a leap of 17.22 seconds to win the event. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.